Good morning, I'm Darlene Griffiths, and this is my case study for EDL 952, Black Lives Matter. So let's start with the who, what, where, and when, the facts of the case here. We have an Assistant Superintendent Curriculum Director, Ms. Simmons, who was an activist in the past. She's proud of the protesters because they are raising awareness about racism and demanding accountability for the police. Black Lives Matter protesters are just a couple blocks from East City High School. Parents of East City High School students are frustrated, not only with the protesters who are blocking their route to pick up their kids after school, but also they are frustrated with the location of the protests. So again, we're talking about East City USD 101 public schools. There's a Black Lives Matter protest on a Friday afternoon. Tensions are running high, not only near the school, but in the town as a whole. Traffic is a mess, and buses are trapped in gridlock to get kids home. What has brought on this protest? Well, as I said, it's a few blocks from East City High School. An incident of a police shooting an unarmed African-American man a couple towns away from East City has brought this on. It is occurring on a Friday afternoon, between when schools let out and when rush hour ends, so there's a lot of traffic. It also spills over into Monday morning. Some students are wearing All Lives Matter shirts, and a few are wearing Black Lives Matter shirts on Monday to school. So are there any legal issues or ethical issues? Well, the protesters have filed the paperwork necessary for them to hold their protest. They aren't breaking any laws there. There is freedom of speech for these protesters. As far as the high school students, they have freedom of speech as well, as long as it does not impede the learning environment. Ethical issues, well, there are two sides to everything, and so tensions are running high. There is reluctance from district leadership to get involved, and the school is worried about possible discrimination or harassment, and maybe some biases being shared there. So let's synthesize what is happening. Ms. Simmons sees the Black Lives Matter protest as an opportunity for developing culturally responsive and inclusive curriculum for our district, as well as adding guidelines to the student and teacher handbooks. So what do we know? Well, who's involved? Well, Ms. Simmons, the principals, and the district administration are well aware of the situation. There are students with multiple viewpoints, parents who are frustrated and angry and posting what they feel on social media. The local news outlets are covering not only the protests, but the traffic jam and parent frustrations. And then, of course, we have the protesters. So what don't I know about this situation? Well, is there a police presence for this protest, or is it peaceful? Are there counter-protesters on the other side of the street? Will this incite violence that could affect the students, families, and community here? Could teachers have been talking to the students in their classrooms during this day? So maybe it's already been addressed. The known place and programs. Well, we know it's East City USD Public Schools, which I assume is going to be in a larger city. Black Lives Matter protesters are just a couple blocks from the high school. And although the school day was not disrupted, the after-school routine was. So what don't I know? Curriculum-wise, at East City, is the current curriculum culturally responsive? Is it inclusive? Is it being taught with fidelity? Are tough subjects like racism and inequality being addressed? So before moving forward, whose input do we need? Well, parents. First, I want to know, what do they expect the school to teach? Are there things about the situation that they are talking about at home that they don't want the school to teach, that they want to take care of in their own homes? Teachers need to be asked. If they are asked to teach lessons about racism or other hot topics, are they willing to do so? And then students, what are their perceptions? Maybe they are better informed than what we are giving them credit for. They do a lot of their own research. So let's talk about our options and possible consequences of these options. So option one would be to do nothing, The administration, school, and teachers remain neutral and during this time of social unrest. Why? Possibly because educators are fearful about introducing a curriculum about racism because it's a sensitive topic and it may expose some biases there. So some consequences of doing nothing. Students and possibly parents could see the inaction as cowardice. Racial inequality and police brutality are perceived as permissible by the school. That may not be the message that we're trying to send, but that's what could be perceived. Conflicts could escalate at school over the next days and weeks. Option 2 would be taking a safety perspective. We could work with the city about finding out if there are future protests scheduled and asking them to be located further from the school to avoid the gridlock and the problems that we had after school on Friday. And possibly if future protests are scheduled, we could dismiss students early to again avoid all the traffic jam and the frustration there. However, the consequences of this, stakeholders may view our actions one of two ways: avoidance or safety. And since in the past Black Lives Matter events have turned violent, we would be doing our best to keep our students safe. Option 3 would be that as the superintendent, we encourage Ms. Simmons to go ahead and develop a curriculum to teach our students about social issues in today's society. She would need to get input from a wide variety of viewpoints, not just a few, but you got to get everybody involved in this conversation. Then after finding that information and getting all those viewpoints, are there willing teachers to present these lessons? Maybe there's nobody willing to do that. And then parents would be asked to sign permission forms for their students to participate in these hot topic lessons. So what are some consequences of option 3? Well, will stakeholders, when they're asked, share their perspectives in a civil manner, or will this lead to more conflict? Teachers may fear retaliation from students or community members who disagree with the lessons that are being presented. And possibly parents who do not want their children to participate in the lessons. They may be shunned, or their children might be harassed for not participating. So when I evaluate the options, option 1, by doing nothing, the school culture stays the same and underrepresented students don't see any changes. Option 2, if I just focus on the safety of things, students may take things into their own hands and do their own protests to get out of school or just to show their support. Option 3, if we address the reasons behind the protests, students can learn more about their world and understand the viewpoints of others, and this also might help them practice conflict resolution strategies. So in my opinion, the best option and how I would implement it would be option 3. I would let Ms. Simmons take the lead. She would need to gather input on the issues from a variety of stakeholders. I mean, a lot of different people and different viewpoints. Make sure that all of those viewpoints are presented so no bias is demonstrated. Look for research-based lessons to address these social issues that students are facing. Parents would then need to decide if they want their student to participate in the lessons, and communicate clearly what those lessons are going to include. Ask for teacher volunteers to present the agreed upon lessons, maybe in their classes or during a special time in the day, but don't force teachers to do this if they're not comfortable. Things will fall apart if you do that. And students should know the expectations of participation in the lessons beforehand. So we're not going to get into a fight about this. We're going to talk about it civilly and see each other's viewpoints. So all of this relates to our standard PLO 3, equity, inclusiveness, and cultural responsiveness. So as a district administrator, I must evaluate, cultivate, and advocate for a supportive and inclusive district culture. I must provide equitable access for students to instructional materials, teachers, and learning opportunities. And I want to ensure that my schools are inclusive and offer culturally responsive instruction to help students navigate today's society. Thank you so much for listening.